Wow, that's embarrassing. My entire stream was killed because I didn't have my mic turned on. I hate this mic. It has a button that you have to have pushed, otherwise it won't make any. It won't pick up any sound. So this is definitely an embarrassing moment for me. I've had better days. Regardless, that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and start back up again. Basically, what we're doing today is looking at tags, the different HTML tags that are available. And so we're going to go into a web page. First of all, while we're talking here, go ahead and get logged into CodePen.io. But we're not going to start there. We're actually going to start on a page called JavaPoint. JavaPoint.com is where we're going to start off today. JavaPoint is a page that basically it's a programming site, has an HTML tutorial, but it also has a very comprehensive list of all of the HTML tags that it's possible to use. So this is why we're here this morning, is there are a lot of tags. It's not a bad little review site. It basically gives all the rules and the syntax for HTML. But right now, what we're interested in is down here. We want to look at this list of the different tags, and as you can see, it goes all the way from A to Z. Basically, there's every tag you could want. There are a lot of them available. We're not going to look at all of them, of course, but we are going to kind of go through a few of them and basically see what effect they have. Notice here in bold print it says not supporting HTML5. HTML5 is the current version of HTML that's being accepted by the World Wide Web Consortium. Anything that is not HTML5 compliant, we're not going to worry about. Particularly this applet tag. I really missed that tag. Once upon a time, you could write Java applets. You could write code in Java and embed it in a web page using that applet tag. You can make all kinds of cool games. HTML and the World Wide Web Consortium, and I can see their point. It was a moderate security risk because you're allowing programming to happen in your web page, and people then could craft evil, malicious programs and embed them in pages that people weren't expecting. But still, it's a shame because you can make the very best games using that applet tag. So if it says not supported in HTML5, we're not going to bother with it. But we are just going to kind of look through some of these, like the anchor tag. You should already be familiar with that. That's how we create links. Abbreviation, that designates a word as an abbreviation. Area tag works with image maps, which we don't use anymore, but that was also actually pretty cool. You could set up an image, break it up into pieces, and then designate it as a image map and make each of the different pieces a different link. So you could use a picture as your navigational tool, and then each different part of the picture would go to a different place. Audio, if you want to embed if you want to embed sound into HTML, like an MP3, that's the tag that you could use. Bold, the B tag. A lot of these tags like bold are not used anymore, even though they're still viable, because style sheets have made, style sheets have made bold tags and strong tags, all these text affecting tags that change the look of the text. Style sheets have made those kind of obsolete because it's much better, much easier to do in a style sheet, and it also separates your style information from your text information. This is something I'm going to harp on, and I really want you to get it. Style information, like the boldness of text or the color of text or the color of the background of text, things like that that affect the look of the page, need to be separated from the page content, from the text of the page. The reason is, if you need to edit or modify the look of your page, if you need to change how your page looks, you don't want to have to go in and disturb the content. You can, in today's climate, in today's programming environment, you can change the entire look of 10,000 pages by editing one CSS document, whereas back in the day, you had to go to each individual page, which could take weeks, sometimes months. If you wanted to change the look of a big site, you had to go in and change every single thing on the page that had anything to do with style. You had to dig through your text, and quite often you would break a loop or you would break a link, or you would mess up a tag and it would make the page not look right. So, separating style information from content is vital. It is a fundamental of modern design. You want to have your text in an HTML document. You want to have your data, your video embedded or whatever in HTML, and then you want to have your style set up in a style sheet in CSS, because that way you don't have to mess with one while you're changing the other. It's very important that that happen. So, having said that, the bold tag we'll probably not ever use. Let's see here. The big tag, stuff like this, big tag that's no longer supported in HTML, it's not something that we would do anyway because it's another one of those. Block quote, if it changes the look of the text, it's not something we'd use. There again, it's a style sheet thing. Body, however, that gets used in every HTML document there is because it's one of the defining tags. You have two defining tags, a head tag and a body tag. Head tag defines the head of the document. The body tag defines the body. The body defines the visible area of a page. The head, most of that information is invisible. Line break, let's look at that one real quickly. A single line break. Let's go back to our programming environment. This is our text from yesterday. You'll notice we have paragraph tags, and everywhere we have a paragraph tag, we have a skip, and the line stops. We have a line return, but then we have a skip. A paragraph is set aside by having a skipped line between the preceding and postceding text. In this case, however, let's say we wanted this line. This is the second paragraph. Let's say we wanted the line to break right there, but we don't want a skip. We don't want a line, a blank line there. So we're going to use that BR tag. And when we put it in there, sure enough, now the line breaks at paragraph, but there's no skip. This is just a regular line of text, just like we had typed all in the same line. This is a very useful tag when you want to control exactly where your lines end. Say you're writing out some text and you need to fit exactly into a space. You need it to the lines to end exactly where you want them to end. You can use this BR tag, and it makes the text just regular text. It's not a new paragraph, but you can control exactly where the line ends. Also, something to note about this BR tag, there's no closing tag. This is one of those tags that does not have a closing tag. You'll notice when I put it up here, I just put in the BR tag itself. I did not come down here and put in the, where's it at the end of code? I did not come down here and put in a closing tag. I could have. I could have come down here and done dot, 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 dot. And I could have ended that. It doesn't change anything. Is it more correct? Not really. But I could do that. It's a legitimate thing to do, but it's not necessary, and it just requires extra code. So I can just take that out just as easy. It has no effect on the page at all. The line break tag still works. This is one that you can use without a closing tag. Canvas allows you to set up a JavaScript so you can draw, so that your users can draw on the page. Caption is one of the table tags. Center, reason, there's no reason to use the center tag anymore. Center tag is probably the most often used tag back in the day. Basically what it did, it centered the text in the middle of the page. Well, it's a lot easier and a lot more useful now to do that in CSS than it is to do it within the HTML documents, so we don't do that. Citation, use that to surround a footnote or whatever. Code, we use this one a lot. I use it a lot because I put code snippets. You can put code snippets into a page. It changes the look of the page. It makes the code look small and red, and just completely differentiates it between the paragraph text. So code I use a lot. Columns and column groups, these are for tables also. Data list, deletion. If you are doing a document and you want to maintain the history of the document, then you can use the delete tag to show things that have been deleted, but they'll still be there. A div, this is probably going to be the most use tag in this class anyway. We're going to start using divs next week, and we're going to use it a lot. A div tag makes a container, a transparent square container that holds text. I'm not going to go into that today, but we'll use it a great deal. Emphasis, this is another one you probably won't use because it affects the look of the text. It's a style tag, and we don't do that. We do that in CSS. Embed, if you wanted to embed an external file or an external application, you can use that. It's really limited compared to Applet, but it is what it is. A lot of these form designates a form. We're going to do that a little bit later. Also frame. We're not going to do frames anymore. This used to be a way to set up like a dual column layout on a page. It's clunky. So is frame set. It's clunky, and like I said, it's not supported in HTML5 anymore anyway. So we don't do that. You might find this in old pages, and it hasn't been deprecated yet, so most browsers will still get it. But yeah, for the most part, you'll never see this again, except now you will see iframes. When we embed video, we'll go into what an iframe is. But for a regular frame, it's easier to do that with a style sheet. H1 through H6. Let's go through these real quickly. These are the headings or the title sizes for the different font sizes in HTML. We still use this technically. Well, no, I don't. Yeah, you could do this in CSS, but it would be a lot more clunky. We still use this H1 through H6. So let's look at those really quickly. All right, we've already got H1 up here, and we know what it looks like. H1 causes your text to be big. So I'm going to get rid of this line break in here. H1 tag causes your text to be big, and basically what it does is it says this is the title. This is the #1 heading on my page. Let's say down here we wanted to add a subheading. So we're going to use the H. Let's do H3 because it has a good difference. This is a subheading. All right, notice how it's still bold, but it's a lot smaller. Basically, the titles allow us to divide the page up into organized, readable pieces. It's important that we do that. Let's say we had some, what you'd call it, some footnote information at the bottom of our page. So we're going to do H6. This is where our legal explanation would go. Notice how tiny it is. This is for footnote information. This is for where you put your legal disclaimers at the bottom of the page. This is footer information here. That's what H6 does. Let's see here. Let's go up one. Let's do H5 to give you a kind of a comparison of what that looks like. So it's smaller than H4, but bigger than H6. H4 is pretty much the same size, but it is it's a little bolder, I think, than regular text. Okay, so you can see what the different headings do. H1 makes it bigger, H2 is just a little smaller. H2 and H1 sometimes are hard to tell apart. H3, H4, or H3 rather, is smaller still. H4 is the same size as regular text, but it's bold. H5 is smaller than H4 and still bold. H6 is tiny. You would use H6 for legal disclaimers and footnote information. So basically those are what the H1 through H4 tags. Notice I do have to have closing tags on those. When I start here with H4, I have to close H4. When I start here with H5, I have to close H5. You do need closing tags on the headers, or the heading tags. HTML tag you're familiar with already. Basically, it's the defining tag of the document, and it tells the browser this is a document that you need to interpret as HTML. iframe, we embed video, and we can embed basically anything that's on the internet using an iframe. These are really handy tags. The downside is a lot of pages and a lot of servers will not recognize them. So if you have content from YouTube or from Google or from somewhere else that you want to embed in a page, YouTube uses iframes. But if you have I don't know, some part of a Google page that you want to embed, Google will not recognize it. It'll say Google refused to load, and you won't be able to see any of your content. So you have to figure out which sites will allow you to use iframes to borrow their content and which ones won't. Image tag is for pictures. Input tag makes an input field on the form. We'll talk about forms later. Keyboard defines keyboard input. We'll talk about that later. Pretty much this page, as you can see, is very in depth when it comes into your the tags that can be used in HTML. I'm not going to go through all of them because, frankly, there's too many of them. I'm just trying to go through here and find. Span we're going to use a lot. Span lets you set aside. Let's say you've got one. Let's say you've got one word. Here we have the word wood. Let's say we want to do something different with that word. We're going to define it as a span, and we're going to give it a name. Let's give it an ID. I haven't used an ID in a while. We're going to call it test. So for just that one word, we have our opening span tag, and this ID I'll show you why I'm using that in just a second. And then we're going to close our span tag here. All right, so right now the word wood is not changed at all. But if we come over here into our style sheet and we say test, and we do our angle brackets, and we're going to go color blue. And what happens, as you'll notice down here, it changed to blue, but it's just that one word. We can define a word or two words or even one letter as a span, and once we have it defined as a span, we can give it a name, and then once we give it a name, we can control it with CSS. We can do anything we want to that one word. Let's see, we could even do something like this here. Font family. I'm going to change that to Arial. Now notice the font family changes. I can do anything I want to that word. Is it text decoration? I think it's how you do that. Sure enough, that's what it is. So now it's underlined. I can do anything in the world I want to that one word, and it will not affect the surrounding text. So span is a really handy tool, especially if you like to have granular control over your page. So, all right, basically, table we'll look at. There's a lot of table tags that we can work with to build tables. Although tables their roles have changed a lot lately. And I say lately, in the past 15 years, tables have changed a lot. We used UL. This is U rather. This is used to render enclosed text with an underline. We don't ever use the U tag anymore, simply because it's easier to do it in a style sheet, and you have more control over it in a style sheet. Underline. UL is an unordered list. Basically, it's if you see a list of bullet points with dots on a page, that is an unordered list. Video tag, it's an HTML5 only thing, and really we probably won't ever use it. It's just easier to use iframe. And then WBR is a place to put. It's kind of like the BR tag. It makes a line break, but it does it only when it's possible. There's a subtle difference there that we'll talk about a little bit later. Anyway, those are the different tags that are available, and you've seen some of the effects that those tags can have. Don't worry about the style sheet. We'll get into that a little bit later. What you need to know about here, though, is the span tag. You have an opening and a closing, and that defines one little area of text. It can be a letter, it can be a word, it can be a paragraph, it can be a page. Although if you want to do a page, it's easier to do it with a bigger container than a span. You know about the headings, H1, H2, and more importantly, what you're trying to get out of today's lesson is you know how to put them into the text. You've got text here. We've got some of it designated as a paragraph, some of it is H1 through H6, some of it in a span. You now know how to put the tags into the text, and that's what's important. That is the beginnings of learning to design in HTML, is you have learned how to put the tags into the text. So with that, lesson 4 comes to a close. You should be very much familiar with how to put tags into text. You should be very much comfortable with how to use CodePen.io. There again, you have to have an account and you have to practice. Vitally important that you practice the coding. If you're going to do any kind of coding at all, you really got to practice. You got to get out there and do it every day and become comfortable with it. That's the only way you're going to be successful as a coder. So today, you should have learned quite a bit. Now, what I want you to do is go on to the next assignment. After this, there is an assignment using these tags, and we're going to do a little bit of page designing and page layout within the limits that we have, within the I guess the tags that we have available to us. You can use any tag you want. You can use any tag you want to accomplish the assignment. So I'll put it that way. They need to be working tags. You'll notice, remember, we saw some of those tags were not supported in HTML5. Some of them were not supported at all. Even if there's one you could use to probably do better in CSS, that's okay, because you don't know CSS yet. We're not there yet. So if you need to use a tag that does something that ordinarily you'd do in CSS, that's okay. Use the tag. As long as it's a tag that works, you can use it in the assignment. So guys, do the assignment, get it turned in, and I will see you around campus. Have a good day.